Hello and welcome to Joy of Books with me, Miss Joy. Today's offering is Bret Easton Ellis' book Imperial Bedrooms. This controversial fiction book was released in 2010 and contains 178 pages. Sharing his views on the book today is author and teacher TC. I know that you are a fan of this author. What is the verdict?
Well, I love Lesson Zero, and this is essentially the follow up to that excellent debut novel. As with all sequels, you have to accept that it won't quite stack up to the first one, but it's a great read nonetheless. The title is the title of an Elvis Costello album, and again, this is in keeping with the theme of Lesson Zero, song from Elvis Costello. The novel opens with a confusing statement that the writer is not Clay, and it references the movie of the first book. So it's a very unusual opening, but once you've got past that, we learn that the main character is Clay. Now he's a 40-something New York scriptwriter, and he finds himself back in California, in Hollywood, to cast his new movie. Of course, like we expect from Clay, he's still abusing the substances, and initially he's quite paranoid as well. He feels that he's being followed by this blue Jeep, for example. And of course, with Clay and the other characters, we don't really have any sympathy for him because of the way that he approaches life. Of course, the way that he treats women and boys as well, of course, taking advantage of their quest for stardom. And of course, that total lack of emotion or responsibility, this narcissistic approach to life. Yeah, all of the original characters are present. So we've got Rip, Trent, Julian. We've got Clay's former squeeze, Blair, as well. And throughout this whole novel, you've got the undertone of cosmetic surgery, crash dieting. You've got the unspoken illness, which is, of course, AIDS in the 1980s, in a novel in which bisexuality is quite prevalent, of course. So Clay's been in quite a slump. He's hung up on this Megan, who was a young starlet that he had a relationship with, but now she's actually married a film producer, so she's kind of made it, but Clay still has strong feelings for her. Then Clay kind of repeats the cycle with Rain Turner, this other young starlet. You get the feeling that Clay's in some kind of a midlife crisis. He's seeing a psychologist, a shrink, for example, but even he refuses to help Clay after a little while, warning him off this Turner character, who goes by a different name later on as well. Blair, the original love interest from Lesson Zero, actually married Trent. It's quite a loveless marriage despite them having children. And Rip now is a boss for one of the Mexican cartels, believe it or not. So his initial dabblings in dealing narcotics have really escalated, and he's in with some quite heavy hitters now in that criminal underworld. And as such a boss, he is involved in some pretty unsavoury things, and there's a torture scene a little bit later on which is really quite awful. The rumour is that the description was actually edited from the original manuscript, so I do wonder how worse that could have got. I can't imagine that much worse. But of course, this novel, like the first, is all about the general depravity in California in the 1980s among this group of very wealthy people. And of course, these characters can't find a way through their ruined lives. They will not find salvation or hope in religion, nor in the psychologist's office. So, of course, with any Bret Easton novel, I always enjoy it because of the quality of the writing. It's honest, it's raw writing, it's believable, and it presents these vacuous characters in the manner in which you would expect. As with any Bret Easton Ellis novel, I really enjoyed it because of the quality of the writing, which is very precise, very clear, and of course there's a rawness about it which cuts to the very heart of these vacuous characters and their empty lifestyles. Yeah, the privileged few, the powerful few, and obviously the weight that they hold in their respective worlds comes across really clearly. The reviews of the novel were not too hot when it was released, but I'm not sure why. Of course, Clay himself makes no apologies for what he is. And of course, Clay's character, we have zero sympathy for him, certainly not by the end of the novel, where he's attacking young girls and he's abusing narcotics and generally not being very pleasant as a character. I would imagine this is the reason why the reviews were not too hot. Perhaps readers were looking for some kind of salvation for this character, for Clay, some kind of, white light at the end of this dark Californian tunnel. And they were obviously disappointed in not receiving that. But I would suggest to them, and perhaps the critics, then come on, it's Bret Easton Ellis. What were they expecting? I enjoyed the book. I thought it was a worthy follow-up to Imperial Bedrooms. I thought it was an interesting take. It's kind of got this noirish feel to it, and it reminds me of books that I've read before by James Ellroy, for example. Yeah, in terms of the writing style, very dark, very noirish. Certainly a feel of the James Ellroy about this. I'm a big fan of Ellroy's writing, and I can see a lot of elements at play here in Easton Ellis's follow-up. So definitely a book worth looking at, I would say. If you're a big fan of Lesson Zero, then this is a must-read.
Well, thank you very much for your review of this short story collection, Tissy. Imperial Bedrooms by Bret Easton Ellis is available from all good book outlets. Thank you for joining me, and please remember to like and subscribe to Joy of Books.